pant size by 1, and then just see it get the pants a little tighter. Maybe that
If you're not going to
pushes
take
some
this
blood
seriously,
to the
Mike, I don't even
creative
know
part.
what
Here
you're
I
doing.
Fred always says he loves caller on caller crime, so I figured I'd chime in with my most hated caller. Christian from L.A. is by far the worst caller.
Oh.
He's a window-licking buffoon.
Window, is that a thing? A window licker?
Window-licking buffoon.
Is that a thing?
People were asking me a lot that yesterday. Who are the guys that who are the guys that should return? Are you done, Christian, or do you want to stay on?
I'm good. Thanks.
All right.
All right.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right. Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Wednesday here at Gillette Stadium. We're turning the page to the Buffalo Bills, a 4:25 matchup on Sunday. You know, the Patriots have such,
Absolutely.
rabid following. They had to move us to the 4:25 window.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get it in.
That's the only reason.
National window
Absolutely.
for Drake May.
Yeah, the Drake May window.
He did talk about, played some cold games
Yeah.
in North Carolina.
Okay.
But-
like 40 degrees.
But this is going to be he said it went down to like the 20s, but
Okay.
I kind of find it hard to believe.
well,
but,
this game's going to go down to the teens.
yeah, this is going to be cold.
Yeah.
And he did say
As of now, anyway.
he'll be breaking out the long sleeves for the first time, I think he said. Yeah. So I do think that's an element of the game that's good
Sure.
for Drake May.
Yeah.
Get him exposed to all these different kinds of scenarios.
Yep. So I would imagine that they're going to practice outside all week. Right now, temperature.
It's actually nice out here.
Yeah, it's 47. It's too warm.
It was 60 yesterday.
I know. Yeah. So we're not going to be able to resemble the weather in Buffalo. That will be a good test because he really doesn't have a lot of experience playing in cold weather.
Yeah, and this will be, the last 3 games is due to be at least one like really bad adverse weather. Like maybe some rain or snow, some wind,
Yeah.
and it's obviously going to be cold in all 3. So I think it's good for him.
Yeah, the key for cold, it's the undergarments.
Yeah.
If you have good long underwear, you can
Brady used to wear the scuba
I know,
scuba
you
thing.
can deal
remember?
with it. And then, you have the pouch with the hand warmers in there, so you put your hands in there between plays.
Yeah.
You can make it. You
Yeah,
can
unless
make
it's like extreme, like the playoff game with Tennessee.
it. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
that's extreme cold.
I
The
used
one
to hate-
last year,
I used
the
to
Kansas
hate
City
playing
one.
in the real cold. I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, I don't like the cold weather in general.
I mean, my fingers and
I'm
toes.
soft.
It's just my fingers and toes would just like get so cold.
Yeah, it's funny because like as a kid when you're outside playing, like you play like snow hockey or snow
Yeah.
football, it's like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
But like if you're playing a real sport and it's cold,
Yeah.
where it matters if you do well or not.
Right.
Yeah, not so much.
It's tough. Anyway, 17 I think is about the temperature for Sunday, and 4:25 it'll.
But you'll get some wings though, huh?
Oh, the night before?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you guys got plans?
Oh, yeah.
Huh? Nice.
Yep.
Nice. I always liked the Buffalo trip. It was a sneaky, fun Saturday night.
Yep.
The Buffalo trip.
So, that'll be the last road trip for the Patriots this year.
Yeah, last one for you guys.
And then 2 at home. So what are we
Not
thinking?
that Fred's counting down the days or anything.
I mean, the Bills are going to be playing for keeps, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of a letdown for Buffalo, but they have to win the game. I mean, it's
Thinking
still
ahead to the game where they here last week game of the season.
I meant thinking more like back to what they've just gone through. A couple of shootout wins. Well, not wins. They split the 2 games, but high intensity games against the Rams and the Lions. Maybe they come home after those 2 games and they look at it as we were 11-3. They're 3-11. We probably don't need to be at our intense best.
Yep.
For this one, but they need the game. They can't afford to slip up. And if I'm Sean McDermott, I just look at him and say, "This, you thought this last year. We went up there and we went to Foxborough and they beat us.
Right.
So if we're not ready to go, they'll be ready to beat us.
Yep.
That would be my message if I was RA.
Yep.
RA McDermott.
But realistically, I mean,
they're a 14-point favorite.
Yeah, even as the homer that I am, I think 14 points is generous.
I think it might have something to do with what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like the Ravens were just 16 on the road against the Giants, and
Right.
they covered it, by the way.
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with you. It's probably a little bit lower than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So what are we looking for with the Patriots? Because, we want to watch. And the first answer obviously is, what's Drake May's night going to be like? You always want to see improvement with the quarterback, but beyond that, what are we looking for in this game?
I would say I'd like to see a return to the offense that we had seen prior to the bye. I thought the Rams and the Colts games, those 2 home games, they looked a little bit more diverse offensively. I'm not necessarily saying that they were, bombs away, throwing it downfield, but this past game I thought was a step back, both in approach, creativity, and play.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think, I just think it was a bad game plan.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly why.
You don't think there was anything to do with, the opposing defense? You give them any credit for taking the Patriots out of rhythm? And I mean, that first drive was a good drive until the Patriots killed themselves.
Correct.
But then after that, it seemed
they did nothing offensively until from that point on.
It seemed the Cardinals adjusted a little bit, and we didn't really have an answer.
Yeah, I just feel like they wanted to go with a bunch of short, quick passes to get the ball out of his hands quickly, probably in an effort to protect him, but why this game any more so than any other game? Was that the mindset?
I don't know.
It's the same offensive line they had the previous game. It's not any different, really, of a defense.
Yeah.
I just thought it was odd. I think you can't just do one thing, and I think they tried to do a lot of the same thing in the first, 3 quarters of the game.
Do you think all this talk about, using Drake May's legs and all this stuff, not just in the red zone, but design runs, do you think they, would bow to that and actually incorporate some of that into this game?
So that's a very interesting thought. And my feeling is generally this year when that's happened, that's been the fallback. They've done it.
Right.
Demario Douglas has been awfully quiet. The next game they throw 4 screens to Demario Douglas in the first quarter and a half.
Right.
Clearly in an effort to get him going early, get him involved. We've seen them sort of
respond,
hearing, what's going on and responding to it. I don't think they will with this because I think that they really feel it's in Drake May's best interest to not be asked to run as much. I think that's something that's going to be part of his game, but I don't think they want it to be necessarily now.
Yeah.
Don't have anything. That's not like I spoke to Mayo about this or anything like that. Just my feeling.
Yeah.
Just my thoughts.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how you open it up. That's how you.
Oh, I think it's a big part of his game.
I mean,
and
that's how
you.
In a way, that's kind of how you protect him a little bit. Because now you're giving the defense a little bit, something else to think about. Spreads them out a little. Now maybe they have to dedicate somebody just to be the spy. Take somebody out of coverage. Gives them a little bit more time. I don't know, but the more you can do, the more the defense has to worry about. But I kind of agree with you. I think, and we talked about this yesterday, that might be the next phase of the offense, and they're not ready to incorporate that this year yet.
Yeah, and he's definitely not been scrambling as much to run as he was earlier, which is probably something they've talked to him about. But I'm talking about designed runs. I haven't really seen any designed runs.
No.
And I would be surprised if that changed over the last 3 games because I do think at this point you really want to make sure you get him to the finish line so he's got a regular offseason and not an offseason that he's rehabbing a surgery or something.
That's the last thing you want.
Right. So I can understand if they want to be a little bit more cautious.
Yeah.
At this point. 3-11.
Do you think that there's any chance, last 2 games, you know what?
Joe Milton?
Yeah, we're going to sit Drake and we're going to play Joe Milton.
Yeah, we get some I get some feedback from that. People send some questions to me. I just don't really understand what benefit that would be. Don't you need to get Drake May as much experience as you can?
Well, the counter argument is yes, but the experience that he's going to get this season, we feel he's gotten.
So you don't think he can benefit any more?
Well, I don't. I'm just saying that this is the counter argument.
Yeah. And I'm making the counter argument back.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen what we need to see with him this year. We're not going to incorporate the running part of the offense. There's nothing new we're going to do with him. The state of the offensive line isn't getting any better. Let's just make sure that we keep this thing that we have 100%. See what we've got in Milton, going forward. Do we need to keep Brissett next year? And call it a day. Yeah, I'm just saying. I don't want that. The more Dre I can see, the better. But I'm just saying that this could be a possibility.
Yeah, no, it's not like it's not a crazy thought. I'm not. It's not one of my I'm about to attack you kind of things. Generally, when it's just me and you, I don't do that.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Paul.
No, when
that half zip today again.
I'm sorry.
That's a long zip.
Was
that on the discount rack?
It's Vineyard Vines.
Oh, okay.
It's not discount, my friend.
It's Vineyard Vines, but it's a long zipper.
I like this. I like this shirt. I got a nice compliment from Jules.
They might as well just have gone
the
whole way. And
Jules likes the color.
Yeah.
She said it brings out my eyes. She didn't really say that.
It's a fine color. The zipper is long. They might as well either go quarter or go all the way. Is what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't know what your hang-up is with clothes, but you have several. You really do. Well, it's more of a hang-up with other people's clothes.
I have hang-ups with
especially
my own clothes,
mine.
too. Yeah.
But anyway, I do think that your Milton thing is interesting. And I would say this. I would maybe middle it a little bit. Because there's a lot of elements that you just brought up in that, and we can touch on some of those. For Milton, I would not even really contemplate starting him and playing him in a whole game because I think there's too much to be gained for May, in my view.
Okay.
But I'm not going to lie and say I haven't thought about it because Sunday in the fourth quarter, they're down 23-3 with 8 minutes left. They go down and score a touchdown. Okay, so May benefits from that. That's a hurry-up drill. He goes down, scores a touchdown. Arizona immediately responds and gets the touchdown back. I thought about it. Why not, give Milton a series or two and see what happens. Just see if he can get his feet wet a little bit. They didn't do it, obviously. May stayed out there and went down and scored another touchdown, which is fine. This is where I could make your argument, like they've seen enough, they've gotten enough experience that they, I don't think he needed that last drive.
Yeah.
Like in garbage time. I mean, let's call it what it was.
Right.
You can make an argument, well, there's benefit of playing in the fourth quarter. We're going to go no huddle. He did that. He went right down the field and they scored a touchdown. So I thought maybe that might be a time for Milton. The other part of it is I don't really think the whole do we need Brissett back? I don't think that's going to be the Patriots' choice. I think that's going to be Brissett's choice. And some of the comments, I don't know if you saw the comments that he had with Mike Reese.
Well, if not him, do you need someone else?
Do you need somebody?
Yeah.
So I think you would benefit maybe if you could possibly see how he plays because I know everybody remembers the first impression that Joe Milton made in the preseason running around.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody really remembers the last two games.
Right.
That were really, really bad.
Yeah. They were.
He spent the vast majority of this year, and the coaches have talked about it, both Alex Van Pelt, Gerard Mayo. He's been the scout team quarterback.
Right.
So I don't know how much of the offense he's gotten a chance to necessarily learn and experience. So to your point, Fred, how do you find out if he is really going to be the number 2 guy next year? Got to find out if he's ready. Yeah. So I don't think it's a terrible idea to play him. I would not do that at the expense of May playing in these last 3 games. But if you get in a situation like you did Sunday, where you're down 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, why not give him a series or 2?
Yep. Just a thought. Something that just came to mind as we talk about quarterbacks. The Falcons came out with a statement saying that they're making a change.
Did you watch any of that Monday night game?
No.
They need to make a change.
What happened to him?
He just doesn't look. He looks so unsure of himself.
Kirk Cousins. What happened?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a health thing, and he's not like trusting his body and his ability to move. Not that he's ever been like an overly mobile guy, but maybe he just doesn't feel like he can like move around the pocket at all. Doesn't look like he's trusting what he's seeing. I've seen a lot of videos online. Our buddy Dio Orlovsky. Just doesn't look like he's trusting what he sees. It was not good the other night. They had several opportunities to just end that game, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
He just couldn't do it. He couldn't make a throw on third down. They didn't trust him to throw before that at all. I think it's an odd time to make a change at 7-7. You have to win the last 3, and now you're going to put a kid out there. I would have waited maybe if they lost this game with Cousins and given Penix the last 2. But it's hard to argue that he hasn't deserved it.
There's a possibility if Nix keeps playing well, if McCarthy comes back and plays well next year, and Penix is the guy that this is one of the most productive quarterback draft classes in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, certainly as rookies, these guys have played better than most rookie classes.
If they,
No, I'm saying I think you're right. I think as the rookie playing as rookies, this class has been as good as like any of them.
Yeah.
You go back. I mean, the storied quarterback class is 83.
Marino.
3 Hall of Famers and Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
But not as rookies. They weren't as good as Jaden Daniels. Or really Drake May.
Is that because the offenses are different now?
Yeah, I think they're first of all
rules are better for
they're
them.
more conducive to the passing game.
Yeah.
I think these guys come out of college a lot more polished as passers. Now some of them are gimmicky systems.
Yep.
And they have to learn, real NFL offense under center and all that stuff. But I don't think all of these guys came out of college throwing it all over the place the way they do now. Now, certainly Elway and Marino did. They were next level in college.
Yep.
But I think it is. I think you can make your argument that this might be the most productive rookie quarterback class ever.
Yeah. Okay. So any minute now, Deuce will be back.
Yeah.
From the locker room.
Yeah. We were wrapping up. We got a chance to hear from Mayo and Jonathan Jones got the Media Good Guy Award. You got to have that. You got to have a media good guy.
So if people don't know, the media feels it's very important for them to tell players who's the good guy. And this year it was Jonathan Jones. I think it's the Ron Hobson
Media Good Guy Award.
Ron Hobson himself was a good guy.
He's one of the greatest.
Yeah. So
one of the greatest.
He was a great guy, and so they
still is
named this award after him. And the media, and a lot of media, it's not just the New England media. A lot of media outlets, not outlets, but contingents do this. They give one player the Good Guy Award, and in the past, I think Dietrich Wise has gotten it.
Matthew Slater, David Andrews.
Yep.
I think Steph Gilmore won it.
Yep.
Back in the day. I'm just trying to remember.
So this year it's Jonathan Jones, and what does he get?
They give him a little.
They give him a plaque.
It's like a plaque-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice little, one of those kind of clear.
Do you think the guy that
hologrammy kind of things?
Do you think the guy that gets this award secretly gets made fun of by his teammates?
Do you think he just chucks it in the trunk, like you never to be seen again?
Oh, great! The media thinks I'm a good guy.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, and it's interesting you said there was, so Andrew Callahan is the local PFWA rep. Yes.
Yeah.
And he got up and spoke just very briefly and presented the award to Jonathan Jones. And as he was saying, he goes, in this particular year, I think we all in this room really appreciate, that we had to go in and at times when you're losing, you're asking some difficult questions and you really appreciate the professionalism that the players show them. I thought Andrew was right in pointing that out. And when Jones took his award and he was asked some questions, and there was a question, how difficult is it when you're 3-11 to stand there and answer our questions, paraphrasing the question a little bit. And he said, what you have to understand and what I've always tried to believe is that it's never personal. They're not telling you you're a great player or you're a bad player because of what they think of you. It's just they're just doing their jobs. We're just doing our jobs, and you guys are just doing yours. And I always tried to think of it that way, and I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to take it personally.
Of course it is. Someone's telling you should lose your job.
I understand what he's saying.
Yeah. And I think if more people, on both sides, by the way, the media needs to do a better job of that too. If you criticize, the media, it's it's not necessarily a personal attack.
Yeah.
It's they're they don't like what you've written or what you've said or whatever, you know.
Well,
both sides could deal to learn to deal with criticism better.
some of the thinnest skinned people
Media.
I've ever met are media,
Absolutely.
particularly the ones on TV. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there was way too much of that.
Yeah. All right. So that was so. Gerard, anything eventful today? You know, was it sort of you know, your usual press conference on uneventful?
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily uneventful, but you know, he talked a lot about Buffalo, as you know, as Wednesdays typically are. But there were some questions about his job, and you know, there's stories and talk about your future. And he said, right now, I'm just, you know, I'm not dealing with any of that. I'm just focusing on the Buffalo Bills and Sunday. Mike Giardi sort of asked him a follow-up, sort of understanding the answer there. But, you know, there has been a lot of, you know, questions about whether or not you'll be back. Or there'll be a year two. And that answer doesn't necessarily squash that. You know, like,
Yeah.
you understand what Mike
Yeah.
is saying. Mike's, you know, like, no, so there's a lot of stories about whether or not you'll be back in year two. And instead of saying, oh, no, I fully intend to be back.
Yeah. I'm just focused on today.
But I'm just focused on today. He just says, I'm just focused on today. So
Yeah.
Mike said, that doesn't exactly squash it. He goes, well, I'm not really interested in that, in the talk. It's just, I'm just focused on Buffalo.
You know,
It was not a bad answer at all by Gerard.
No, because a lot of you know, consultants would say, if it's a question like that, don't address it. You know, don't address it, because if you address it, now, you know, it.
I kind of agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that Gerard, by saying, like, you know, like right now we have a game in 4 days.
It's not what I'm worried about.
That's
right
what I'm worried about
Right.
right now is the Buffalo Bills. I think that's a good answer.
But it's amazing, you know, and Tom Curran, who you know, he's pretty close to Mayo. I mean, they did the Quick Slant show together, and I would consider them friends.
It's a great example of it's not personal.
Yeah.
Because they are friends.
Yeah.
You know,
I would,
Phil and Tom have worked very closely with Gerard.
Yeah.
So that's not easy for them.
I was watching the show on NBC Sports Boston last night.
Yeah.
The early
edition.
And, you know, Curran was talking about Vrabel, saying that Vrabel, he said this definitively, Vrabel would be interested in coaching here. Now, like, I don't know if that is from Vrabel or what he heard, but the very fact that Curran is even entertaining that, I think is eyebrow raising, because he's good friends with Mayo, and he's not, you know, he's making this a story.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I was talking to Tom a little bit in the press conference, and I wanted to sort of get into that a little bit, but you know, the pesky interviews kept coming, so we didn't have enough time in between the interviews. I wonder, you know, and I don't pretend to be friends with Vrabel, but I feel like I know Mike a little bit.
Yep.
I had probably a better relationship with him than most players over the years that I've had. And I wonder if maybe he's a smart guy. Mike's a very smart guy.
Yes, he is.
And his name has been thrown out there for a number of jobs, a number of openings, specifically Chicago, and also possibly Ohio State.
Yep.
If they end up losing in the playoffs and they move on from Ryan Day.
He went there.
Yeah, he's coached there.
Right.
So I wonder if he looks at this and says, "Yeah, I'd be interested in coaching the Patriots," like because it just ups his value.
Sure.
Like there's more competition. He's a smart guy.
That's true.
And that's kind of what I thought, because on the surface, I mean, I would think Ohio State would be a home run for him.
Unless he wants to get back in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like he's got Chicago if he wants to get back in the NFL. Like I mean, I saw something earlier this week that kind of indicated it was kind of set. You know, and it's interesting also related to Vrabel, John Robinson interviewed for the Jets GM opening this week. They were together in Tennessee, John Robinson and Vrabel. So I didn't know if they would look to get that combination back into
at the Jets. Who's doing that interview? It's got
to be Woody, right?
So that's the ownership. So they're gonna possibly hire the GM before the coach. Yeah.
Well, they're doing interviews anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I know that like it kind of ended. It didn't end well in Tennessee with Robinson and Vrabel.
Right.
Like Robinson ended up making that trade for A.J. Brown that supposedly really bothered Vrabel.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like an edict from above and Robinson's hands were tied, so Vrabel doesn't hold anything against Robinson, or if it was a thing that Robinson and Vrabel had.
And Vrabel won.
Yeah, and they were on the outs.
And Vrabel won, and then he got kicked out too.
Yeah.
So, but the thing about Vrabel, for any team that brings him in, he comes in on day one with his own swagger, with his own culture. And, he's already done it, but he definitely has a lot of confidence, and you're not going to have to worry about him not owning the locker room on day one.
No, I mean, absolutely not. First of all, he's a former player like Mayo, but he's also coached, and he's had success as a coach.
Yeah.
Not the ultimate success, but, he's had a team that he took to the AFC Championship game. He had another team that he had a number one seed in the first round bye with. Two different teams he's had success with. So there's more gravity there. I think he comes in with more gravitas, as they say.
But
what about Curran's thing that you told me about? He also says that they need to hire a football overlord.
Yeah, so that was the other thing that Curran was saying, is he believes that they need to hire this, I think he called it president of football operations, someone that actually the coach and GM possibly would answer to.
So is the position one to pick players, or is he just sort of
threw out Pioli's name because he was recently on a podcast, or Pioli was on his podcast.
On their podcast,
and he threw out Pioli's name as an example of someone who would have that position.
Just bring them all back.
Yeah,
bring them all back.
So
It'd be good for us. We have great relationships with both of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're creating layers, but what he believes is that you have to have that one person that is, at the end of the day, has all the say, and everybody answers to.
It's interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
And then, of course, people immediately criticize that you had him and you kicked him out, which is Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but, I know, but I don't think that's what Tom is necessarily advocating for.
Yeah.
Like just one guy who's picking the players, coaching the players, isn't in charge.
Right. No.
I think he has one guy that's in charge, but he's
right.
The GM is finding players and the coach is coaching them.
Right.
I think.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So he wants to hire a GM and a coach.
Yep.
But an overlord to oversee it all.
A czar of football.
Czar of football.
Yeah.
I
don't know either. There's some teams that have that, right?
Yeah. I think Pioli's a guy that I think has sort of served in that kind of a role. I think he did it with Atlanta after he left Kansas City. With Dimitroff.
Atlanta, didn't he work for Dimitroff?
With Dimitroff, yeah. I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying who was above who.
I think Dimitroff was up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah. But Dimitroff has been interviewing too. I heard that he was sat down with some team.
Another really good guy.
Yeah. Another ex-Patriot.
Bring them all back.
Yeah, so there's a lot of movement. But, we're in a tough spot here. And I mean the Patriots organization and us. Because right now Gerard Mayo is our head coach, and he's only been here, for less than a year. I get it that it has been far from perfect for him, not just on the field but off the field as well. But I just really hesitate on blowing it up and starting all over again, and without any assurance that that's going to work either.
It's a really hard one because those are the two things, and I can make a really passionate argument for both sides. I know, big shock. I can argue both sides, but there's something to be said that if Robert wakes up today and just says, you know what, I think I was wrong.
Yep.
I think I picked the wrong guy.
Yep.
Then he should make a change.
He should.
But if he's still convicted that, we don't want to just pull the plug after 1 year. It's not fair to anybody who inherited this roster that's so limited.
Right.
We got to give him some time to dig it out and fix his own mess. I think that makes perfect sense too.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to end up happening.
Yeah.
I think that this kind of a season was somewhat expected. I think some of the off-field stuff that you mentioned maybe not so much, but on field, I think people understood the limitations of the
Right.
roster.
So that's the thing.
So
Do
you gotta let them see it through.
Do you think that if the missteps at the podium hadn't happened, we'd be talking about a one and done? I don't think so.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'd be talking about it as much, but I do think that's a big part of it. So
I do.
I'm
think
kind of wishy-washy.
People are glomming on what he's saying as a reflection of who he is.
Like, I'll get to the
and how
point.
he's coaching.
Sorry, Fred.
Yeah.
He was on EEI on Monday. I don't know if you saw any of it. There was some
Yeah.
clips that they put out
Yeah.
there, and he's like sort of yucking it up with Greg Hill and Chris Curtis and Courtney and Wiggy, and people are like glomming onto that now. It's like, I mean, I know I'm a little old school, but this is a little bit too jocular for my liking the day after such a bad loss.
Right.
Like, would we be doing that if it wasn't for all of these like things at the podium? Like,
Right.
like that doesn't really bother me. I don't know how you feel about it. The fact that the next day he doesn't look like he needs to, be on watch doesn't really bother me. I know that these guys are affected by losses.
Yeah. See, I watched.
I know
it.
they care.
I kind of felt relieved that he's the way he is on Greg Hill's show, because I would hate him to like go on there and just be not who he is and be like so tightly strung because of the loss. Like, I want him to be able to move on after these losses because they were inevitable this year.
Right.
You weren't going to be good this year. But I really believe that if he was a little bit more buttoned up at the podium, we wouldn't be talking about one and done. Honestly, I really believe that.
So I think that I agree with you to an extent. I don't think we'd be talking about it as much.
Yeah.
I think they'd still be talking
there's
about
still
it.
with the coaching
If
stuff.
they were 3-11
Yeah.
with one of the worst offenses and one of the worst defenses in football, I think
Yeah.
they'd still be talking about
You know,
it. That's
that-
why, and in full disclosure, we do the mailbag every week.
Yeah.
Right. So it's next Tuesday. I'll be posting it's my turn, and I got about 20 posts already, and obviously I'm not going to be able to post them all because they're all saying roughly the same thing.
Fire this guy.
Everybody's got to go.
Right.
And I understand the frustration. I was a season ticket holder too, before you took me away from all that, like Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
I was there and I was in the stands and I was watching Pete Carroll and frustrated with everybody else. So I understand where the fans are coming from. There was not one unfair email that I've gotten so far. Now I'm going to have to obviously tread a little lightly with it, in full disclosure, because we shouldn't be openly talking about firing everybody.
No, but no.
I don't want to get fired.
But again, I think if it hadn't been for the podium missteps, I think we'd be more talking about the coordinators. Not that we're not anyway.
Right. Well, there's a lot of that too.
Yeah. Not that
It's really
Yeah.
all four of them.
Yeah,
It's
it's
because
true.
it's Elliott and Gerard
No, I know.
with the two coordinators.
Yeah. And listen, I fully admit that the hiring of Gerard Mayo, our hope that he became a good head coach was based solely on trust. We
Yeah.
had no empirical evidence to say that he would be. So all, like you said, all those emails are fair.
Yeah,
It's fair.
And I would like, I'm listening to the players, like, because all the players, Drake was asked about it, Dietrich Wise was asked about it, and I'm sure when I left, Hunter Henry was asked about it, just, to address the rumors about his job security and what your feelings are of playing. And, they're all he's a first-time head coach. Wise actually threw out, this is the way it's gone for a lot of first-time head coaches early in their career. He mentioned Detroit's situation and how that's turned around. If I heard different stuff, if I were Robert Kraft, obviously I'd be talking to the players and whatnot and trying to get a feel for. But I don't sense, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't sense a lack of belief from the players in Mayo.
Yeah.
At least not publicly. I haven't heard.
Well, that's good.
I haven't heard that. Have you?
No.
I haven't heard a lot of negative stuff from the players.
No.
Now, to your word, buttoned up.
Yeah.
They got to button up too.
Yeah.
They got to stop questioning the play calls and the game plans and whatnot publicly. You want to do that. You want to go in the offensive meetings and say,
Yeah.
I thought we played right into their hands by doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
That's fine, but you don't have to do that to the media. It
Yep.
doesn't do anybody any good.
Yep.
But I feel like they're behind him still.
Yeah.
I think they believe in Gerard Mayo. And as long as that's the case, then I stick with him.
And like you said, if Robert Kraft wakes up and says, "Oh, I made a mistake," he needs to do something about it. At the same time, if Gerard Mayo comes back, then that tells me that there's information that the Krafts know that says we still believe in this guy. And it's not just based on trust at this point.
Right.
We've seen a year now. And from what we've seen, we still think that this guy has a shot to be a really good head coach. So we'll see. It's going to be a fascinating offseason.
Yeah.
All right. So 855-PATS-500 is the TPX hotline. Podcast at Patriots.com is the email address. If you want to sign up for the Patriots Unfiltered newsletter, you go to Patriots.com/PU newsletter and sign up there, and you'll automatically be put on the distribution list. The newsletters come out every Friday. Alex Francisco puts those together, and they're fun. Sense of community, tells you what's going on behind the scenes a little bit, so it's good stuff. So Patriots.com/PU newsletter to sign up for those. Let's get to the TPX hotline. We'll start with Max, who is in Santa Barbara. I bet you the weather's nice out there, Max.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Not as warm as I'd like it. Thanks for taking my call, gentlemen. I just have a couple of quick things. First of all, I think the fans' frustration is more, since Brady left, they knew the team was going to go down. I think it's more not that they're bad, it's that they're inept. They seem to be inept. That's, I think, what is the biggest frustration that I know I have. They just seem to be inept. And second of all, to get away from this year's team, I happen to watch a couple clips of Super Bowl 46. And I wanted to ask you, Paul and Fred, since you were there, on that fourth down where after Welker dropped the ball, with the analytics now, do you think they should have gone for it on fourth? I mean, the Giants had no answer for Hernandez. They could have put Gronk in for another play, and Welker could have got open again. Do you think they should have went for it on that fourth down?
What was it, fourth and what?
Do you know when Welker dropped the ball, it was on second.
48, I think.
It was on second down when Welker dropped that pass. Well, it was overthrown by Brady, and then they failed on the third down, and then fourth down. So no, I wouldn't have. I would have punted the ball.
Well, gentlemen, have a great holiday.
But it's a good. It's certainly a good discussion. I don't remember exactly what the distance was.
I think they were at the 48.
No, but what was the distance? I mean, if it was like 4th and 1 from the 48, I would have gone for it.
No.
But I remember it being like a 4th and long.
Yeah.
Well, today's analytics,
Yeah. No, I think.
But today's analytics would have said to punt on 4th and 10.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was going to say even today's analytics would have told you probably to punt.
Yeah, it's like the distance is the important part there, not necessarily the field position.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they should have kicked the field goal
at the halftime of 07.
in 42.
Right.
When they went for a 4th and 13.
Right.
Like they should have kicked the field goal.
Yep.
Oh, Mike's back.
Hey, Mike's here.
Look who's back from the locker room. What was the mood? Were the players friendly? Too bad none of them looked like Derrick Henry. Hey Mike, what was it like in the locker room? Hey Mike, what was it like in the locker room?
All right, Mike.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Oh, that was nice.
You really do like you like that a lot.
You can't help but be in a good mood after that.
I love it. I kind of pick up little things, like the little echo.
At the end.
Trades off. Yeah. Oh, well. Yeah, so a lot of talk about the cold today, guys, and it wasn't exactly confidence-inspiring. We just heard from Antonio Gibson and Demario Douglas, but both of them kind of implied that they've never quite been in cold like this before, and the coaching staff's telling them
Did Douglas
single
not
digits.
play in Buffalo last year?
Now they're down to single digits?
And single digits is what I think the coaching staff is telling them. So
maybe they're preparing them for the worst, and then it's like 10 degrees warmer.
It's warm out here.
Yeah, well, it's not as bad as we thought.
I think so.
Loser later.
Enjoyed Antonio Gibson today, though, and I think he's had a couple, handful of good games here, just, coming on a little bit at the end. Talked a little bit about just changing his routine up a little bit, and feels like he's settling in, getting healthy, but was really saying that, he said he's never been on a winning season with in his time in the NFL with the Washington and now with the Patriots. So he's been through this a couple times, but he was just saying that he's been in bad locker rooms at this point, and he said, it's not like that right now. Everybody, I've been in places where guys just don't want to do the lifts anymore, and they're just checking out. And he said, guys are still seem invested here, and I think he thought that was, a good sign and a good reflection of the guys that they had in the locker room. So spoke positively on that, but otherwise, the theme of going up to Buffalo in the snow and the cold weather doesn't seem.
That's kind of what I was talking to Fred about, because we were talking a lot about Mayo, and I said if there were signs that they were sort of tuning him out or not believing in him, then maybe I would reassess my thoughts on the future. But that's what I'm hearing, is what Antonio Gibson said to you. I've been in bad locker rooms, and I don't really see those things happening here.
Yeah. Otherwise, went into the main locker room, and good energy today. A lot of, just feels kind of, some weeks it's a little quiet this first day, kind of ramping up, but it felt like a lot of guys were in there getting ready, and just felt like it was bustling a little bit. So, yeah, it was pretty good. But like I said, only talked to a couple guys.
Yeah.
Of course, we got Jonathan Jones.
Large contingent there, media?
Pretty large.
It was
very
a decent
much so,
contingent today, yeah.
And the press conferences was
I thought it was bigger than the last couple of Wednesdays. Wednesday is always the biggest day because, Fred?
That's when they give out the Chick-fil-A.
Right.
That is right. But yeah, I guess you guys probably touched upon.
Well, we talked about what was your
Jones.
impressions of Gerard today?
He was fine. I mean, I just think he's trying to get through these, and I mean, I think he's just as not sick of them, but I just it just gets repetitive. Like, what do you want him to say? He's not going to come out with the grand answer today of, it's just we've got to stay the course, we've got to finish strong, we got to stay bought in, we got to stay focused. But I liked what Dietrich Wise had to say. Just was asked specifically about Mayo getting involved with the defense. I think that's been a question we've all kind of asked. Like, you don't necessarily see him always on the sideline doing that, but Dietrich Wise said, in the meeting rooms, that's what he does. He gets in there like he's the linebacker again, and kind of coaches from the players' perspective, which we've heard a million times since he got hired, that the players appreciate having a coach who played, who knows what it's like to play through injury, and also can relay what he would see on the field and how they need to communicate. So that was one highlight for me. Just interesting little detail there from Dietrich Wise.
We were talking about, Paul and I, about whether or not there's any merit in seeing some Joe Milton this last stretch.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could see a scenario where it gets down to the end and maybe you're just like, man, Drake's getting battered out there. Like, just let's give Joe a couple snaps. I could see some value in that for sure. Because let's face it, if these guys are going to be together for the next few years, you never know when it's going to be Joe Milton's time. So if it does get to the point where it's 0 degrees out there and Ed Oliver keeps landing on top of Drake May, it might be like, hey, let's.
Because if you think about it, like if you want a veteran backup quarterback, so let's just say on the low end, that's $5 million. Like, so it's not just nothing. I mean, I'm not saying it's a huge difference maker, but it's not nothing. So do you want to make that investment? Because you don't want to get in a situation where you get to like training camp and you're like, you know what? We need a veteran presence. You don't want to be scrambling around. You want a guy that can come in and be part of your offense throughout the offseason as the backup. I brought up something similar to what you said, Mike, kind of splitting Fred's, like, play him or not. I think it's too important to continue to play Drake May.
Yeah, me too.
But like Sunday, and I did think of this, and I don't think I ever said it out loud to you. You were in a bad place. I didn't want to disrupt you. So it's 23-3 with 8 minutes left.
Yeah.
I think there's value in May going out there and, all right, you're going to play some hurry up here. Let's see what happens. Puts together a nice drive. They get out and they score a touchdown.
Yeah.
Arizona immediately responds by getting that touchdown right back. I thought about it, like, why not Joe Milton here? There's probably like 4 or 5 minutes left at that time.
Yeah.
Maybe put Joe Milton in there and give him that same kind of thing, because at this point the game's over.
Yeah.
And you're only, you got the experience of that kind of a hurry-up drive and a catch-up mode. You got that for Drake May. Did he need 2 of them? No. You ended up keeping him in, and you got another one, another touchdown. So it's not like it's bad. Yeah. But I did think maybe Joe Milton there. And if you get a situation like that in these last 3 games where you're down 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and, it's not just mop-up. Like, it's like 8 minutes. Like, you can actually run a drive.
Yeah.
maybe Milton can benefit from that. I don't know.
And throwing a little bone to Joe Milton, who sounds like he's been doing a great job on the practice squad, getting guys ready. So I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd also just point out, I think Reese, either this weekend or last, talked about Jacoby Brissett and that they initially wanted him for 2 years.
We did talk about it. Yeah.
So
I don't think he'll be back based on that.
It didn't seem
based
like
on
it.
those comments.
And like to your point, how do you feel about Joe Milton? Maybe get a little bit of a sample size on him.
Now, if they're convinced, like, he's more than capable of being the backup quarterback next year, that's fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I find it hard to believe they have anything to base that on.
Yeah, just let him uncork one up there. 80 yards.
Yeah, so I just looked at the forecast. It has gone down. High of 13, low of 7 now. 7. So it's getting worse.
See, I like Drake's response today because he kind of brushed it off. He was like, and I don't know about those numbers down in North Carolina. It doesn't get down. He was like,
that's what I said to Fred. I go 20s. I don't know about that.
You've been more to Carolina than I have, but he kind of shrugged it off. I like that because
I thought you would be upset because he said he was going to have to don the sleeves for the first time.
As long as you don't like
that.
The scuba hood.
That's what Brady did.
I don't want the hood.
Brady had the scuba outfit.
I know. I hated it so much.
It worked for him, though.
He just hated Brady so much. It's amazing.
Just the scuba hood.
How did you fall so in love with a team that Brady won so many games for with your utter disdain for Brady?
I forgive the play.
I can understand if you're a lineman. It's like, I'm going to be
game recognized game. I get it.
If you're a skill position player, physical comfort is important. Then you can perform better.
Yeah.
Like, don't deny it. Like, try to get yourself as comfortable as possible physically.
I agree with that sentiment. I don't care for the look of the scuba hood.
The look.
That's just me.
It's all about the look.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I think Mac ruined it for me too when he wore it up in Buffalo, and it was like the helmet looked kind of sideways, and he just looked like
the
helmet was sideways because he just got his brains knocked out.
He doesn't look good in a uniform.
No, he doesn't.
Like, for starters,
he doesn't fill it out. No.
It was more of, and I remember this from Arizona when they came here in 2008, the Matt Castle year. It was snowing. And Kurt Warner came out, and it was and I said it to Fred, I said it to Andy. I said, he just looks cold. Yeah. Like, it was like, when you're cold and you crunch your shoulders up? That's how Kurt Warner came on the field that day. Yeah. Oh, by the way, 47-7. Like, there was the Cardinals had no chance that day. Yeah. And when I watched Mac Jones come out on that wind game, the 3-0, the 3-pass game, he came out, and I just looked at Mike. I go, look at how cold he looks. And then the playoff game, it was like, it was he had no chance.
It's a buzzsaw up there. Yeah. It's tough.
Well, Mayo's played in some cold games, so he can give them some tips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get warm, but we'll see. We'll see how Pop does. It just, it wasn't inspiring confidence. We're like, man, it's gonna be cold.
Here's another one that you'll remember. So there was questions that Andrew Callahan was asking about Josh Allen, and he seemed to have the line of demarcation in 21.
Yeah.
When they played him 3 times, and the last 2 times he lit him up. They didn't punt the last 2 times. Do you recall what happened in 2020 when they played Josh Allen?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why they picked like 21. Like, in 2020 was the Monday night game here when Louis Riddick and I think Brian Greasy at the time were talking all about how Bill Belichick believes that he can shut down Josh Allen, blah, 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 blah. And it was like the inference was like what you were saying with Ross Tucker this week.
Right.
Oh, this is stuff they must have gotten from the production meeting, and then he just lit them up. Remember that night?
I do.
That was the night I almost died during the pregame show?
I know. You missed that one. I also remember the game before it where I think didn't Jonathan Jones concuss Josh Allen at that point? Or maybe that was 19.
I think that was 19.
They had a collision. I do remember 2020.
They won
Cam Newton
they
going
won
down
in
to
Buffalo,
maybe
and Cam Newton fumbled.
Which, again, still getting a lot of emails about Cam Newton from one particular person. I don't know if you get those, Fred.
Oh,
but
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Get a life, people. I mean, come on.
Person.
Yeah.
Get a life, person.
Get a life.
855-PATS-500. Let's get back to the TPX hotline. Mark's in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Fred, kind of along the same lines of what you were talking. I am not impressed with Verdarian Lowe at all this entire season. And I know Gerard keeps saying, you know what, he's doing the best that he can. Well, me at my job, I mean, if I'm not doing what I am supposed to be doing, I'm not going to have a job anymore. And I kind of feel like along those lines for Verdarian Lowe, he just hasn't lived up to what we need. And there's got to be another player like Caleb Jones that's on the practice squad, that's 6'9", that I've called on before, the size of this guy, I mean, put the kid out there. It's experimental time. You got 3 games left. You're not fighting for any playoff position or anything. Let's see what other guys have, at least for the future.
Well, listen, I agree with you. If you're not doing your job, management needs to make a change. But here, I don't think they think that there is a better solution, honestly. I think if Caleb Jones, they thought, could do as good or better, he'd be out there. But, you have to worry about Drake May. You can't just put anyone out there right now. And if you think Caleb Jones isn't as good as Lowe, you can't put him out there just to see at this point, because you have to worry about Drake May. But, listen, if there was a better solution than Vidarian Lowe right now, you'd be seeing it. I guarantee you. But that's the problem. There isn't.
That's got to be the top priority.
Yeah, they didn't go into this season thinking Lowe was going to be the guy. He wasn't supposed to be the guy. And he's all that's left.
He said, see you later.
Yeah, he's all that's left. So we're in a pickle when it comes to left tackle, and it's not something they're going to be able to address this season.
Is there going to be a lot of free agents that could potentially take over that position?
There'll be guys. There'll be, they're not going to be studs as free agents, but there'll be people who have played the position at a competent level. And Elliott Wolf,
with that number 3 pick, I'd rather than pick Travis Hunter and get the tackle position in the free agency. I
kind of agree with you, or a second round or something. But I kind of agree with you. At least have a veteran on the roster who has played the position at a competent level in the NFL.
Exactly. And thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And Merry Christmas to all you guys.
All right.
Same to you, Mark. Thank you.
Let's go to Danny in Daytona. What's up, Danny?
Danny.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yes. I'm just calling in. Tried to get in yesterday. I guess I was pretty busy. So I have some couple takes, some solutions to the Patriots' dilemmas that have been plaguing them all year. I've been harping and beating at the drum about all the problems they have, but I think now at this point, this time of year, instead of just creating all these, people coming up with all this craziness, I think the solution that you and Paula just talked about briefly, and I was just reading on Sports Illustrated earlier, 2 days ago, and then I was watching Tom Curran's podcast just yesterday. They have to have a team president, I'm telling you. All these successful organizations, if you look at the Bears, they got a team president. You look at the 49ers, they got a team president. Even the sorry Cowboys, they got a team president, even though Jerry Jones is running the show. His son's still the president. And they have an actual GM, but not by title. He's running the show. So all these, organizations around the league, they have a person that's in charge of football operations. They gave this phony title to Elliott Wolf. The guy is in over his head. The solution to that is fine. You want to keep Elliott Wolf, you don't want to fire him, that's fine. He needs to have a babysitter. He needs to be able to answer to somebody. You want to keep Gerard Mayo, that's fine. He also needs to behave a babysitter. He's making the team look like the New York Jets. He looks like a buffoon. The head coach is supposed to be the spokesperson for the team, and people look at the New England Patriots and they see the New York Jets. They see a dysfunctional ownership, meddling in and everything. They see a head coach who doesn't even know what to say. They see a GM who can't even draft. It's terrible. And then they,
pretty bleak, Danny.
Can't even play.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
right. Thanks for the call. So Curran was talking about that football czar.
But I think that his problem is with the individuals that are in place, not with the title.
Yeah, I don't think the
it's not a
structure
phony.
has anything to
Elliott
do with
Wolf
it.
doesn't have a phony baloney title.
Right.
You have a problem with Elliott Wolf's choices.
Right.
And I'm not saying he's wrong. I don't think Elliott Wolf had a great year.
So in his world, this football czar has all the answers.
Right, but the football czar in New England is Elliott Wolf.
Yeah.
Again, you obviously don't like the choice.
Yeah.
But does Gerard answer to Elliott?
Yes. It was written in the release. Elliott Wolf has final say over the 53. That specifically is in the release. So he's in charge.
Of the players.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you like? We can have another guy who. What is he in charge of?
But there's also the game plan. There's also the game
but that's
itself.
coaching. That's not a GM. Okay. A football czar is not going to be in charge of game planning.
Well, I think in Danny's scenario.
First of all, this is another problem I have with Danny. All the successful teams: Chicago, not successful; Dallas, not successful;
right.
San Francisco, 6-8 and wildly underachieving. Yeah. Now, I'll give you San Francisco's a successful organization, but John Lynch does not put the game plan together.
Right.
John Lynch is procuring players for Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
That's the way most teams do it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's not the structure of the front office to me. Like, it's the players. It's the guys. It's the people that are in the jobs and the people that are picking. And this reeks to me of kind of like take GM duties away from Bill and bring a GM into, like.
If you want to have a guy in charge of everything, fine.
And what are you going to do? Bring somebody in to watch them next year?
So now you're basically making Elliot Wolf is now like the head of scouting.
Neutered. I mean,
he's the head of scouting and he's doing all your work for you. But ultimately, in your scenario, Scott Pioli is in charge.
Right.
But Scott Pioli is not going to put the game plan together on Sundays.
No.
The coach is.
Yeah.
So I know there's a title for everything nowadays.
Yeah.
Now you
can
have a president of football operations. Neat.
And
what does that mean? What does that do?
And there's a million ways to skin the cat. Every team has some type of variance in how they're structured, and whether or not they win or not has more to do with the players they have than anything else.
Right, and that's why I'm not criticizing Danny, the caller, Danny from Daytona, for suggesting they need better.
Yeah,
because they do need better. They need better coaching and better personnel moves than they made in year one. Yeah, and if it doesn't improve, I don't think we'll be having conversations about whether or not they'll be back for year 3.
Yeah.
No question. Just going back to the previous call real quick, I thought maybe Ben Brown, maybe this is the week. Maybe Cole Strange in.
Maybe.
He was talking about Vidarian Lowe, who I think my frustration with Vidarian Lowe is just that, and we heard from him all summer, like he just seems like a guy who really wants to get it right and is really hard on himself. And, so you give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but the hard thing is just when he's making mental mistakes that, like, this is the stuff that should be cleaned up. And for Ben Brown to kind of start with all of a sudden the snaps don't look good.
Where did that come from? Because he hadn't done it all up until now.
Well, you heard footsteps. I think you heard the Cole Strange sneaking up behind. I'm coming to get that job from you.
Joe in New Hampshire. What's up, Joe?
Hey, guys. So you were just talking about it a little bit. Earlier you were talking about all the rumors with Mayo's job, and the last caller brought up Elliot Wolf. I personally have a bigger issue with Elliot Wolf than I do Gerard Mayo and the rest of the coaching staff. I just don't think he's cut out for the job. The draft looks abysmal to this point. The free agency moves look abysmal. So even though I know if we get rid of Elliot Wolf, the new GM will bring in their own coaching staff, but I think Elliot Wolf should be more so to blame than Gerard Mayo.
Okay. I
sure, I think it's about the same, but I get it. They didn't have a good first year.
Yeah, what I don't know is how much say Elliot Wolf and/or Matt Groh had prior to this season.
Right.
Because you can say that they inherited, not a very good roster, but were they partly in charge of creating that prior roster as well? I don't know the answer to that.
I would say they were involved.
Yeah. Oh, of course they were involved.
But if we're going to give Mayo some slack for being a first timer, you have to give Wolf the same thing. Because this is the first time that he was in charge.
Yeah.
I do think that's a great question though, Fred, because over those last couple drafts we heard more about the collaboration word and Bill making sure everybody's okay with it, and I think you look a little differently at the current regime if you knew and I'm just speculating, but Macro really wanted Cole Strange, or Elliot Wolf was really banging the table for Tyquan Thornton, or all the misses that they've had in these couple years where they were at least trying to give the appearance that Bill was, letting more people have a say. Was that true? Were these drafts, like you said, really influenced by these guys? And in that case, then this draft would look like the cherry on top of this isn't working out. But if this is their first one, and to Paul's point, I think they checked the boxes. It wasn't like he didn't go off the reservation with, I'm going to go take something we don't need. And, the Bill stuff that we used to get on him in the draft where, this guy was way overdrafted. You can be critical that the moves didn't work out. Certainly the Caden Wallace one where I think we can play left tackle. That's a stretch. But at the time, it felt like mostly drafting guys where they were slotted and where they should go.
But I mean, and you guys certainly, I'll bow to you and Evan when it comes to projections. I felt like there were a couple, but not the high ones. Like Caden Wallace is an example. A lot of people said was a 5th-round pick.
Yeah, that's where it started, I felt.
But I also, to me, the bigger issue is what you said. Like, it's not Caden Wallace. It's we're going to take a guy who's played exclusively right tackle, and we're going to say that he can make the transition.
Right.
Yeah. That's tough to me.
Yeah.
That's where they lose me. But the trade down in the 2nd round, they lose me there too.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to trade down and allow a position to get taken that you're going to take, you better have a guy who's better than the guys that were taken.
Yeah. Yep.
And
you better know.
I know it's only one.
Sharp.
I know it's only 1 year, but like Bill Belichick the year before, he can't draft anything, traded down in the 1st round, took a cornerback behind a cornerback who was taken, and his cornerback is light years better than the other guy that got taken, who has already been released by that team in year 2.
Yeah.
Which is almost unprecedented.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? Emmanuel Forbes has already been released by Washington.
Yep.
All
so
right.
you traded down and let Washington take him before Gonzalez, and you were right.
Yep. All right. Take a break. My food's here. When we come back, more calls and emails here on Patriots Unfiltered.
Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/one-rate for details. Exclusions apply.
Heading to Buffalo, what's the coldest games you've played in experience-wise coming into your career? And then just the opportunity with the marquee matchup, they moved the time up to 4:25, having an opportunity in Buffalo.
Yeah, I think first off, we heard about the atmosphere and what a cool place to play. I'm sure it'll be a challenge for us, getting the snap count going and with the crowd level and kind of getting our communication and we always talk about operation with AVP, getting that and studying that up and working on it all week. So that's an emphasis for us this week. But also an opportunity, a division opponent. I think they're having a great season, so chance for us to get a good challenge. Coldest environment I've probably played in is back in North Carolina, probably low 20s, maybe teens. It gets cold, back home it does, and it gets real hot too. So we kind of get both worlds back home, but yeah, definitely be different. I think it gets obviously cold weather games and here, up in Boston, but different for me. But I think excited to probably wear long sleeves for the first time and kind of embrace it.
Did you plan on going to the North Carolina Bowl game at Fenway, and now are you a little disappointed that you can't go now that the game has been changed to Saturday?
No doubt, it is disappointing. I think we probably would have been over here. I think it was an early game start. I think it was, 11 o'clock in the morning. We were over here on Saturdays, usually till about noon. So I would have probably been late for the second half or something. But shoot, I mean, you can't control when our game gets moved to, but definitely a bummer. Won't be able to check out my guys.
Drake, the opponent this Sunday, Josh Allen. How much of him have you watched growing up? How much have you really is someone that you've kind of looked up to as you've grown up through football?
Yeah, what a special player. I mean, he's playing at a really high level. It's been fun to watch some of his highlights and some of the games. They got a lot of primetime games, so anytime Josh is on, I'm big fan of his game. Got to meet him a couple times throughout my time, just crossing paths, and he's an awesome dude, and he's a great player, and what he's done for Buffalo and how they embrace him is pretty cool and pretty admirable.
How do you personally feel about some of the comparisons that have been drawn between your game and Josh's game?
Yeah, I think I got a long way to go. What a player he is. Playing at MVP level. I think the biggest thing is just his progression he's made. I think what he dealt with is whether coming out of college or his first years here, and I feel like everybody was just kind of not giving him the credit he deserved, and now you can see kind of full tuition what he's doing and the level he's playing at, and just like I said, fun to watch, and I think I got a long way to go to get to anywhere close to playing like at his level.
Drake, there's some questions about your head coach's job security at this point in the season. First of all, want to get your take on that, and then maybe what do some of the guys in the locker room feel about what Gerard might be doing?
Oh yeah, I think it's his first year coaching, being a head coach. It's a tough challenge, for New England Patriots. Just like I said, it's a lot of responsibility being the quarterback. Same thing as head coach. It's a lot of responsibility, and he's figuring it out. And I think our players, we're behind him. We're backing him, and we trust the plan he's got for us, and we trust I think what he says in the team meeting rooms and all those little sayings that he has. We believe in it, and we're bought into it. I just think the results are coming. I think they're coming. I think kind of we wish everybody wishes they were now, and I think we're kind of striving for that. But sometimes I think it doesn't work out that way. But I think what we're coming and the winning is coming in the near future.
Do you feel the same way about Alec McDowell? I imagine that's
100%. Like I spoke on AVP on. I think I was on the radio show about AVP. Just what he's done for my development, and just a quarterback-friendly offensive coordinator. I think you want that in that room. He's easy on anybody to coach you up. He'll coach you hard to let you know when my part of the job or my part of the play is not done right. He'll let you know. He'll be the first one to let me know, but first one to pump me up. So he's been awesome and huge for me. Him and TC both have been awesome, and can't say enough about those guys.
What have you noticed about his coaching style this season? Now that we're kind of towards the end of the season, can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, he's a player's coach. He gets it. He played. He knows how to take care of us and take care of our bodies, and knows what it's like to get injured and play through it, or have to do a lift on a Friday 2 days before a game, and you got to get through it and get through it for just your body and the rest of the season. So Coach Mayo is. I think that first one was special for him, and that first week, and I think since that point on, I think we just had some things, some little focus things, and kind of a few plays that haven't gone our way. But I think we've been in a lot of games. We also talk about one-score games. We got to finish better. In those critical moments, situational football, he always preaches. He's big into that, of playing better and playing complementary. And I think turnovers, me protecting the football, and us getting more turnovers would help. So I think there's a lot of things going to it, but with Coach Mayo's kind of coaching style, it's been player friendly, and I appreciate what he's done for still kind of bringing me aside and kind of coaching the quarterback. I think that's pretty cool for a head coach to do, especially defensive head coach. So that's been cool for me.
Drake, Gerard was just telling us about how he saw Josh develop, and he thought Josh's evolution was kind of keyed by this idea of just taking the profit, like pass up the money, you can't take the completion. Where would you put yourself in that part of your development, taking a profit, being patient, and what the defense gives you?
I think I've been trying to work on that each and every week as I go on. I think last week it was a good testament. At some point you need to take a shot though. You keep the defense kind of honest. So just been trying to take what they give me. I think AVP and those offensive guys have done a good job of finding easy completions for me. I think a lot of underneath stuff and letting our guys get the ball and run with it. So I think that's been a huge process for me. And kind of the deeper stuff, I kind of get fooled into kind of taking the deep shot or taking the intermediate shot. And I feel like I've done a better job of checking it down or taking the completion. And as the year goes on, I think you find that and trying to find more completions and realize just a completion sometimes is the best play. Whether it's 2-yard gain or 3-yard gain, I think that gets us better in third down scenarios where we've been struggling. So I think that's the big part of me is of my game is figuring out when the time to do that and when the time is to maybe push the ball down the field.
Drake, is it tough for everyone to stay motivated through these last 3 games when you know that there's no playoffs or anything at stake?
I would say so. I think the biggest thing is it's another chance to play in the NFL, play on Sundays, and playing great opponents that we'll have some more games down the road and getting a chance to play against a playoff level team and really see what it's like to, hey, these guys are there and where we want to be at. Kind of gives us a level of, hey, who can make plays for us in these moments, and kind of it checks kind of the gas tank for ourselves and where we're at and kind of what we're building on. So it's a good test for us, big test, and we're gonna have a lot of games hopefully in Buffalo and with this team. So in the future, so I think it's an awesome opportunity. So thank you.
And now, great moments in history.
Burton Island says, now I've heard it all. Lady Gaga should get an Academy Award because Fred Kirsch didn't know it was Lady Gaga.
That was a good one last week.
When you put it like that.
She was unrecognizable.
Didn't even look like her hair.
So give the Oscar to the makeup artist.
No, you know what I mean.
No, not really.
She was immersed in the character. I didn't realize it was her.
Yeah. What's
What do you got?
Philip Seymour Hoffman. He was a good one where he's the same guy, but it brought something kind of different to it that just it never took me out of it.
But he was never Oscar worthy because I always knew it was Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He's mad now.
Fred has that
He's mad now.
Deuce and I know.
We know acting.
We know.
I mean, I was in the biz.
These rubes over here.
No, what Deuce just said made perfect sense.
With your experience on the stage, I would assume you would know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about. Did you recognize De Niro?
Oh, absolutely.
Because he looked a little bit different too.
He's fat and old now. But it's De Niro.
It was just the part you would. I understand what your point is.
And Adam, and the other one,
the
Adam Driver.
It's Adam Driver,
right? People can't see you, Fred.
Fred, it's
know what you're doing.
Prominent schnoz.
But I get your point about.
That's another great moment from
Prominent schnoz.
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered, 855-PATS-500 is the TPX hotline. I don't know why I get messed up on that one. Podcast@patriots.com is the email address. And again, if you want to sign up for the newsletter, it's patriots.com/PU newsletter. Sign up. They go out every Friday. Join in on the fun. Travis in West Virginia writes in at that email address. Just wanted to take a minute to be the word police.
Oh, boy.
Since Eric is no longer around.
Oh, no.
On yesterday's show, at the 34:58 mark, Mike used the word symbolic, which I guess is a combination of symbolic and emblematic, but unfortunately not a word.
Fair.
Also, my two favorites on the show are Fred and Paul, but when it's just the two of you, something feels off. I'm surprised you haven't come up with a solution to address that yet.
Well, it's only a half hour that Mike comes by, but the something that is off is we do not argue.
We have.
Not a lot, though.
No,
do you want to argue now?
No, but we've argued, and then remember, Andy would come in, and we'd be in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah,
that
is true.
Like, what are you guys arguing about?
And then we'd be like, nothing that concerns you. And then all of a sudden, we'd go from arguing with each other to teaming up and arguing with Andy.
Right. No, I mean, it is a little bit more laid back when it's the two of us. More of like a conversation, rather than just free-for-all.
We can be thoughtful.
Yeah. Henry writes in, says, I largely agree with you all that Mayo will be back, and I hope he is. As calm and reserved as he is, does he need to show some fire on the sideline after a repeated mistake, such as shattering his headset on the turf or a heated butt chewing on the sideline? With all these repeated mistakes this season, maybe he's being just a little too nice. I mean, I hear that a lot. Like, what's he doing? He just stands there. But he is on the headset, and he is talking. And
how many times did you see Belichick last year fire a headset into the turf?
Other than with the refs, never.
No. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole different thing. I'm talking about the team. He's talking about repeated mistakes getting on the team. How many times did you see Belichick screaming at his players?
I did see him
like
throw a
Billy
surface,
O'Brien did to Brady.
I have seen him throw a surface, though. Maybe that's what Mayo needs to do is just, look at a play, throw a surface. Maybe that'll appease some people.
Yeah. Okay.
Throw
break equipment. All for it.
They're a sponsor, aren't they?
Hey,
never mind.
Who's more emotional than me? I'm all for it.
I mean, we have no idea what happens after the game, immediately after in the locker room. Like, for all we know, he's ripping them up and down, but we don't know that.
Sure.
You know?
Keep it behind closed doors.
Yeah. I mean, we make fun of those coaches who, like, you know, are visibly upset on the sideline just to show that, you know, it's them, not me. And, you know.
Yeah.
Or players who separate themselves from the team when things are going bad.
It's funny, like you can't, like that's a game I don't think you can win.
No, you
like,
can't.
There was a thing, I don't know if you saw this clip between Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor on Sunday. You know, it looked like they were sort of unhappy with each other, and they're going back and forth. And, like, that's a sign of dysfunction. It's falling apart. You know, Mayo hasn't had any of those. That's a sign that he doesn't have any control.
Right,
and they're not, you know, like, I just don't think you
just
can
gotta
win.
Yeah.
You just
Right.
got to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Jeff in Canada, my son plays high school basketball. He's a good player, humble brag, but he doesn't have much help, so his team is pretty bad. But when I watch the team play, I still think the coaches could do more to put less experienced or less talented players in positions to succeed. So my question is, what can we watch during Patriots games to show us, is it simply a bad player problem, or could the coaches be doing more to compensate for the lack of talent? That is what should answer the Mayo and assistant coaches conundrum. Are they doing what they should with what they have? Depending on your answer, how much turnover should we expect in coaches and players next season? It's a good question, but it's one that it's impossible for us to answer with knowledge. I mean, we can guess, but we don't
My
have...
answer is both.
Yeah, but we don't have the information necessary to make the off-season decisions that are going to have to be made. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've seen some players regress, you know, that were better before, and I see that point towards coaching, but I've also seen Drake May develop pretty well, so that points to coaching positively. So I just don't know how to divvy it all up and to be like that. That's what's to blame.
That's why I say it's both.
You know, it's,
I think
it's a little of everything.
I think there's a problem that they don't have enough horses to compete with a lot of teams. That's true. But I also don't think that the coaches have done a great job of sort of putting some of what they do have in positions to succeed. You know, is there any reason why? Is it just that Jalen Polk isn't very good? Or is this all we're going to get from Jalen Polk? Like, I mean, I think that there's a combination. I don't think Polk has been great, and I don't think they've done a whole lot to help him.
Yeah.
Both things can be true.
Yeah. There's a lot of that across the roster.
But Fred's right. Like, without having the inside knowledge of what's going on in meetings and game plans and, you know, it's hard to answer.
Yeah. Let's see. Eric writes in. He says, I was all for Team Gerard at the start of the year, but I think he needs to go. I never expected their record to be much better than it currently is, but the way in which they're losing, I think, is not good. If we were seeing the team improve every week and the defense was getting better and he was saying all the right things, it might be a different story. Do not fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. Let him go and then hire Ben Johnson. Wolf, I think, can stay, only because of May, though. But one more bad draft, I think he should be replaced as well.
What if you can't get Ben Johnson?
I know. And Ben Johnson's never been a head coach.
It's true.
You know?
That's right.
So, I
It's
mean,
true. He's the hot commodity, but what if let's just assume that he is going to be good. Like, what if you can't get him?
Right.
It's going to be, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 jobs open.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
he's the T.
I would
Higgins
say,
of
though,
coaching
if
prospects.
you're
Good,
somebody
Mike.
like Ben Johnson, I would think this would be an okay destination.
Oh, I think the Patriots' job is attractive.
Yeah.
I think
it can't get worse.
I think you have a young quarterback who looks the part.
Right.
I'm not going to call him anything more than
Yeah.
potential right now.
Yeah.
And you have loads of cap space.
Yeah.
And you're working for owners who obviously know what it looks like when it's successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty attractive opening.
Yeah. You got Patriot Place right here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
New training facility in the works.
New training facility in the works. That
quarterback, right?
Throw it on the pile.
Let's
I think
go.
it's a pretty attractive opening if and when that comes. I don't think it's going to come this offseason in 2025. I think Gerard will be back, and I think he should be back. But I think it's an attractive opening.
Spee in Fresno writes in,
Job opening.
I'll opine that one of the big reasons media folk get sensitive at times when criticized is that too many media members, from the start of the Ted Turner 24-hour news cycle to today, unnecessarily editorialize and insert their personal concerns / hang-ups in the process of reporting and analyzing. It gets them caught up with their feelings when doing their job.
Well, there's two different things there. You said reporting and analyzing. If
Right.
you're reporting, you're right. If you're
Right.
analyzing, you're wrong.
Right. But news has now become infotainment.
Mhm.
Like he said, you got to fill 24 hours
Yeah.
on TV. You
It's
can't
always-
do it just repeating the same
See,
things.
but I do
you
agree
know?
with his premise. Like, there is too much reporting that I know. And I say this to you guys all the time. I grew up watching ESPN all the time. I don't remember who, like, Bob Lee's favorite team was or Dan Patrick's favorite team. I could pretty much tell you every single guy who's on ESPN's now who their favorite team
Oh, yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Because they all talk about it openly. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really understand why that needs to be part of your analysis. Like, Mike Greenberg loves the Jets. Why do I need to know that?
Well, like these
Like,
guys,
this means more to him because he
But
lives and
these-
dies
but
with the
these
Jets?
guys aren't journalists anymore. The guys, like you take ESPN for example, the number of people who are really journalists, it's very few. Like it's the Seth Wickershams. It used to be the
Correct.
Well, there's only a few of them.
Schefter is the information guy.
Yeah.
What do you got here?
I'm doing a little.
Got all kinds of stuff
drilling
going
somewhere.
on.
Excuse me.
Mike, did you have some Mexican?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
whoa.
That was uncalled for.
That was uncalled. That was untoward.
Speaking of calls, let's get back to the TPX hotline. Jim's in Virginia. What's up, Jim?
Good afternoon, guys.
Hey,
Jim.
Paul, Merry Christmas to you
Oh,
all.
I like that, guys. Paul?
I want to, follow up on what Paul was just talking about with the coaching and the players, and particularly the receivers. I think a lot of it is the coaching. I can't believe all the Patriots draft choices and players are this bad at wide receiver. Maybe they are, but I have to blame a lot of that on the coaching and not bringing them up to speed. And it looks like we're going to have the number 3 pick this year, and everybody's talking about Travis Hunter, but he is not even listed in the top 10 wide receivers in college football.
Not if you talk to
I
Evan
would like
Lazar.
him- I would. Well, he's the best athlete out there, and he's the best player in college. I agree. But I would say that the kid from Arizona, Tech McMillan, 6'5", 220 pounds, wide receiver, 4'5", is probably a better first pick if we're not going to go with a tackle. What do you guys think? Let me know.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
I haven't studied.
Yeah,
these
I mean,
guys.
I haven't really got into my wide receiver, but when I do, I will certainly have opinions.
I love the size for
Yeah.
McMillan, but I
Yeah.
don't know enough about
Yeah.
it.
I've dabbled. I feel like based on how this year is fleshed out with the receivers, that it's easy to make a case for any of those guys. Like McMillan's a little different, and I probably would skew towards speed more than anything. But
Luther Burden,
sure. I mean, just you guys know they need everything. I mean, and
Yeah, I would hesitate on drafting Hunter at number 3 as a receiver.
yeah,
You know,
But that's my view. But
Yeah.
listen,
But-
I've heard a lot of people
Yeah.
have been on the direct opposite side of me. So maybe I don't have that right.
I just think everybody needs to look at the edges too, because it's a good edge class, and that's a
You're a
position
guy
that
from
they
Penn
really
State,
need.
right?
Guy from Penn State,
Abdul
James Pierce
Carter,
from
is that him?
Tennessee.
but
Abdul Carter.
are they worthy of?
I mean, I think Abdul Carter
top
will
10.
be. I think Abdul Carter will be. I think he moves like special. You know, he's a special.
I saw
energy
one mock with
kind
him
of player.
four.
Yeah, I mean, he's been
it's
in the
two
area.
quarterbacks, Travis Hunter, and then Abdul Carter, and
It's-
somebody's Field Yates maybe.
It's a little bit of a projection with him, but I mean, I think there's an appeal there where he used to be kind of an off the ball guy, and then this year he moved inside. But you just look at him. Some guys move special, and he moves special, and that I think is worth. You need pass rush. I mean, I don't know how everyone's going to get so like, just overdraft a tackle at this point. It's like, you know, why stress that it has to be this year with that tackle at that spot? Maybe go grab a guy who, you know, I mean, look, Micah Parsons is special. I don't want to make that comparison and say Abdul Carter's going to be Micah Parsons. But those guys move special, and if you take a chance on one of those guys, he can impact your front seven in a number of different ways. And, I mean, I'm sorry, the defense is worse than the offense is.
Anthony's in New York. Hey, Anthony. Anthony in New York. No? Going once, twice. You're gone.
I don't want to be a nitpicker here, but did you just say the defense is worse than the offense?
No, I didn't. Well, I mean,
should you just want to let that one slide? Because I think there's an argument to be made on both sides of that one.
I do think there is an argument to be made there. I would just say I feel better about having the quarterback than I do about having
but
the
you don't have
cornerback.
anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I like you got the cornerback and the quarterback. That's all I'm kind of basing it on. I just think you really need an impact front seven guy badly.
I agree.
No, you're right.
You definitely need an impact front five guy badly.
For sure.
And you need an impact wide receiver badly.
4. You need 2 receivers and 2 tackles, right? I mean, so it's.
And you're right.
You're going to be splitting
the defense,
holes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't mean it clear cut. The defense is way behind, but.
That's why I said I didn't mean to jump on semantics.
No. Well, that's That's
if it was Fred, we'd be.
This would be like hour 2.
I'd have the sleeves rolled up.
You
by now,
think the defense is better?
But you're just such a good guy.
I was on a little bit of a roll there, but no, I get your point. I think they need to make a couple additions in the front seven this year that make you say this is gonna be a new kind of defense this year. That's all.
Adrian from Delaware says I was rubbing my nose in Clintus. And they said the Patriots took a huge step back against the Cardinals. Did they really regress, or are they just the same team from the last 2 months? Can the Patriots take a reasonable step forward the last 3 games? Personally, I can deal with the Chargers game, but the 2 games against the Bills is giving me severe anxiety and stress.
Me too. I mean, I think we always look at the season, and when I looked at the season, we had the same conversation of, can they get to the end and show a little spark? We drew comparisons to the Patriots teams of the early 90s that kind of did that rolled off some wins at the end. And then you looked, when the schedule came out and you looked at the 2 games against Buffalo and a trip out to Arizona, and I kind of felt like the Chargers would be where they are. They're behind Kansas City, but they're in the mix, and they're fighting for a spot. It's really overwhelming for me right now to imagine them finding a new gear against these 3 teams, especially Buffalo.
Yeah, and I would largely agree with the emailer's premise that, did they take a huge step back, or is this kind of what that? Now, I thought offensively they took a step back. Offensively against the Colts was as positive as I've been about the offense since probably week 1 of last year. In that Philadelphia second quarter when they went touchdown with Mac Jones. Unfortunately, that was the high point of the year offensively. I felt pretty good about what I saw against Indianapolis. Offensively. They just weren't finishing the drives, but much more in terms of conventional offense. Not like Drake May scrambled on that play and, converted a 3rd and 18 with a fluky kind of a run. No, it was just like regular offense. They were getting holding penalties in that game, and it didn't matter. He was just going, getting the first down anyway. This game was a step back, but as a team, I kind of agree with the emailer. I don't think it was all that much different than what we've seen most weeks.
I
think people were expecting a lot more coming off a bye.
Right. And I think some people were probably pumping it up like this was the progression and this is where it would continue, and you were thrown off by a step back.
Bill from Lake Arrowhead, California. You know where that is?
I've been there. Yeah, it's beautiful. I've been there twice.
Longtime listener and former subscriber to PFW. You guys mentioned how if we draft Travis Hunter, it's better value for him and the team if he played wide receiver instead of cornerback as a primary position.
For him, not for the team.
Well, it would be for the team, too, if he was a really good wide receiver.
No, the value for Travis Hunter is he's going to cost a lot more money, so that's not good value for the team.
Well, I'd be more willing to pay him as a wide. I'd rather have him be a great wide receiver than a great cornerback.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Based off that fact, why is it that the team has never tried to get Marcus Jones more familiar with wide receiver or seriously make a run at trying to have him work out on offense? It's not like he's some lockdown corner and is electric when he has the ball in his hands.
Because he's 5'8".
Yeah.
Travis Hunter's 6'1".
Yeah, I've always thought they should try to switch him over and at least see if it works. Shout out Marines at Camp Pendleton, all serving members of our military serving overseas during the holidays. We appreciate your service, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Maybe stop by the Color Me Mine in Lake Arrowhead and see whatever happened to my mug that we made there back in 15 years ago.
Do you leave it there after you make it? You don't get to bring it home?
Me and Lane went there, and we're like, oh, no, we'll cook it and send it to you. You know, so
And they never did?
And we never got it. You know, I'm still waiting for my mug.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the value thing. Like, you can look at it different ways. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Money value, certainly
Yeah.
cornerback is the more affordable.
Like, well, I think Evan's point yesterday when he was talking about that is it's more valuable to him to be considered a wide receiver because
Sure.
they make more money than cornerbacks.
Yep, absolutely.
But I don't necessarily. I mean, they need a wide receiver. They need a cornerback. Like for the team, I don't really think it matters all that much.
Kyle and Pembroke has some Bills versus Patriots rivalry trivia.
Oh, I love trivia, and I failed so miserably yesterday. I have to redeem myself.
This first one, everyone should be able to get.
Uh-oh.
What was the year of their first game?
1960.
Correct. Any bonus if you know who won?
Buffalo.
Buffalo, 13-0.
That must have been
How many total times have the two teams played?
40, 60.
200.
64.
Much
times.
less.
200.
150.
150, yeah.
129.
129.
Okay.
According to Kyle. Who leads the all-time series?
I'm going to say the Patriots.
Yeah.
They do. Bonus for the record. How many wins do you think they have?
70.
Close, 78.
Yeah.
Oh.
78, 50, and 1.
Oh, it's a bigger spread than I thought.
Who leads the playoff series?
Bills 1-0.
Didn't they play Buffalo in a playoff game?
It's a tough
yes. It's 1-1.
Correct, Paul. 1-1.
63.
It's
They beat
tied.
them.
It's tied. Yep.
That was the one time that the Patriots went to the AFL championship. They had to play Buffalo in a playoff game to get there.
Yeah. And what year was their
Fred
only?
was there.
What year was their only tie in a game?
It would have to be in, well, it could have been in the early 70s too, but I'm going to say 1966.
Close, 68, 16-16.
Well, it had to be in the 60s. I mean, they haven't,
Because you would have known
up until 70. I
you
think
would have known the
74
score and
was
the weather for any other one.
when the overtime came. It would have been 74, right? So,
Who do you think of the three AFC East teams have more name games against the Patriots over the 20 years? Like, I'm thinking of Miami. Miami's got a bunch. I mean, Buffalo.
You mean with us?
Yeah, yeah. Like,
I think the Patriots in general have a ton of name games.
and against those teams, like Jets had a couple Rex Ryan games, 45-3.
The whiteboard game, but the
game.
45-3 game, was there a name for that?
No.
Yeah, can't wait. When
Well,
they beat us?
Well, that was the payback in the playoffs.
when we beat them 45-3, and then 5 or 6 weeks later they beat us in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that was just that didn't have a
But
name.
we had the whiteboard game that you
board.
love. Grease
board.
Grease board game.
Yeah.
The butt fumble game.
Yep.
Buffalo
The car
had
wash game.
The wind game. The car wash game. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had the wind game for Buffalo.
Maybe that Watson game in 09.
Well, Miami had the Steve Burton game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The Miami Miracle.
Miami Miracle.
Yeah.
Kenyon
Miami
Drake.
Miracle.
Brady overtime.
Was there a name for the game where we were killing them? They took Brady out and immediately Miami scored.
I know
and
the
then
game.
put Brady back in.
I know the game you're talking
Castle,
about.
wasn't
it?
That's what the who had to do that to us recently.
That might have been 07, wasn't it?
Miami just did it.
Yeah, Miami just did it. They
Tua
put
came
Tua
out
back in.
and they fumbled a handoff, and Gonzo ran it back, and they had to put Tua back in.
Right. Yeah, I think the Jets have the most name games, right?
Border War.
Yeah. Tuna Bowl 1,
Tuna Bowl
2.
1.
You know, definitely they had the most name games.
That's why they're number one rival.
Yep.
A lot of name games.
Jay from Tampa.
Harper's Muff.
Harper's Muff. Well, that was of course, that was the Broncos. I mean,
see, you knew exactly what it was. The mortar kick. You know exactly what it is.
Yep.
I'm sure that other teams have those too, but I just feel like over the last 20 years, there's like 30 different names that you could say. You don't have to say anything else to a Patriots fan, and they know exactly the game you're talking about.
Pumping in the music game. 06 AFC Championship.
Don't forget they pumped in the flu.
The flu.
In the locker
and the
room.
heat. Jay in Tampa, my apologies if this has been discussed, but I'm not able to listen live. But something I haven't heard talked about a lot this week is the weather in Buffalo. Well, we talked about it a lot today. It looks like the temperature will be around 10 to 15 degrees at kickoff, and this will be our first look at Drake May navigating the extreme cold. I'm curious in your thoughts on how important this specific game is when it comes to what we should expect moving forward from our hopefully franchise quarterback, who I expect to play in a lot of cold weather games. I would hate to have a Tua situation on our hands.
I think it's important for him to experience it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's important for him to play exceptionally well.
Yeah, I don't think
Sunday.
he can make any judgment from it either.
Right.
You know?
No.
Now, if he has a great game.
I'd feel a lot better about it if he has
Right.
a great game.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of superficial vibes, I feel like, in the pregame. Like when we're hosting the pregame warm-up and we see Drake, like, I'm going to, like, just don't look cold. Like,
But if he plays badly, I don't think that's a Tua situation.
Yeah.
Like, that's like his first game,
Right.
3-11.
Right.
In the midst of a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah. Lastly, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't give a shout-out to the best Patriots fan club in existence today, the Tampa New England Patriots fan club. It is a good fan club, by the way. We're excited to host the Patriots and their fans next season down here where the cold weather is never an issue. And Fred, unlike Nashville, you're officially invited to our Saturday night party. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And guess who's here?
Evan has returned from practice. Evan has returned from practice. Yeah, Evan has returned from practice. What was the mood? Who wasn't there? What did he see?
Evan.
Hello.
Little haircut.
Haircut.
Want to give a shout-out to where you went?
Oh,
Yeah,
careful.
GA Barbershop,
Careful.
Valentine, right down here.
Right down the street.
On Route 1,
Yep.
right next to the Papagenos, D'Angelo's, right in the shop
You're
there.
looking sharp.
You look smaller.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at you on
Thank
the
you.
monitor.
Yeah,
Look
look
at
at
you
that.
sharp.
You look
Thank
good.
My guy Sam hooked me up today.
Yeah.
Go see him.
He's kind of
He's
caught in the
great.
middle of a barbershop
Is this
war.
one
I don't want to talk about
Is this
that.
one you can just walk into?
You
Yeah.
can
Like,
you
can
can
you go
walk
in and
in,
out?
but they're
Yeah,
busy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, they're busy.
I just walked in this morning, which was nice, right before we had to be here today, and they do
They do a good job.
They do a lot. A lot of Patriots people go there,
Yep.
players and
Mac Jones used to go
and
there.
staff.
In 6 months, when I need another haircut, maybe I'll keep that in mind.
But also new doorway situation.
Yeah.
Very disconcerting.
That completely threw me off. And I walked in and I scared the crap out of Jules because she did not hear me come in, and she jumped about 10 feet in the air. So that was good too. Good comedy.
High alert.
All right, well, Evan, lots to talk about. You just came back from practice. What's
Yeah.
going on out there?
Yeah, so some interesting absences today from practice. So no Marcus Jones, no Kyle Duggar, and no Jermichael Hasty. So those were the three players missing from practice. We don't really have a great feel for why right now, but Duggar in particular, the antennas went up for a lot of us on that one, and we all have talked about how he's struggled since coming back from injury a couple weeks ago, and I wonder if he's playing through something that we don't know about, and maybe it's finally come to a head that he's missing practice.
It
now.
could be.
Yeah.
Or do you think it's shut him down? He's hurt. He can't do it. Like, is that maybe that?
You kind of hope for the future that is the case.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I would if I'm. Yeah, absolutely. If I'm Gerard Mayo, I hope that he's
Yeah.
at less than 100%, and that's why.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is happening.
There's just some really he's always had some inconsistencies and stuff like that, but some of the missed tackles and some of the plays, the effort plays that he's missed are just not really his MO.
Yep.
So.
Okay. What else?
Yeah, that was it. Like pretty normal. Looks like they do have a new practice squad wide receiver. Alex Erickson used to be with the Bengals.
Oh, I remember him.
I think a lot of us probably
Number
thought
12.
that he was going to be a Patriot target at some point, given the position that he plays in the slot. So he seems to be added to the practice squad. He has a locker. He's out of practice, so he seems to be added to that mix. And it was interesting because last week they only had 4 active receivers because Baker was in concussion protocol, so he was inactive, and all year long they had like 7 receivers on the roster. All of a sudden you look up and there's only 4 guys on the game day roster, so added one to the practice squad there.
And it was interesting because he took on the practice squad Liam Fornadell, who I know a lot of people are like, who? What? It's an offensive lineman, but he's been here since day 1 of training camp.
Yeah.
All the way through, and that's kind of rare to have a guy in the practice squad that goes wire to wire.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 16 guys. There's probably maybe 4 or 5 that do that.
Yeah.
And he was one.
Yeah, Terrell Jennings, our guy, he's one of them
Yeah.
too. He's been around.
Yeah,
but
well,
I
the
noticed
interesting
that
thing
too.
is Caleb Jones is the only offensive lineman on the practice squad now. We were taking attendance, and I was like, there's only.
We had another call today looking for Caleb
There's only
Jones.
one offensive lineman now on the practice squad. So it did look like the offensive line, at least from the very, very brief portion that we saw, remained the same as what we saw in Sunday in Arizona. So no changes, at least from what we saw.
Speaking of offensive line in Arizona, it was funny hearing Hootie Fruity out there making mistakes.
Yeah.
So today's a big day for the media. It's the equivalent of the Golden Globes. They gave out the Good Guy Award.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of talk about that? And Jonathan,
Not before, because we had no idea
Yeah, I was
what was
going to
coming.
say. Yeah,
So you didn't get a vote?
We didn't.
No?
I voted every year I've been on the beat.
You guys didn't vote?
Didn't vote this year.
Wow.
That's disrespectful.
They really stick it to you now, huh?
I'm going to decide that wasn't necessarily on purpose. Like, we don't sit down
But
in
you
the
guys are in the
workroom,
locker room every day. You guys should have voted. I haven't voted for the last couple of years because I'm not around this much.
I haven't voted since my first year here.
Really? That's disrespectful, Mike. I'm taking that as disrespect on your behalf.
right,
on your
well,
behalf.
I'm gonna choose to think that was an oversight because I voted last year. I voted the year before since I started working for the team.
Well, I
so.
think you might be on the outs with some of these guys.
True.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's probably
possible.
But was it a unanimous? Do you know if it's unanimous or was
I did
there,
not. I
was
did
there a
not.
split? Was there?
I did not ask.
You know,
I don't know. I did not ask Andrew Callahan.
so you didn't sense any
votes.
people that were a little upset with the outcome.
No, it's pretty hard to be upset with that pick. I mean, Jonathan Jones is a Patriot.
Nothing
through and through.
against Jonathan Jones, but maybe somebody, like Dietrich Wise just as much or something like that. You know?
Dietrich, I feel like, has always gotten some votes in the past.
Yeah.
Always a podium guy that's willing to come to the podium, win, lose, draw. But I think with Jonathan Jones in particular, not to look down at anybody else, but he's really good like at his locker, in the locker room, just like talking shop with you. Like he's not necessarily going to give you the playbook, but like he's really good at sort of giving you a little bit of the behind the scenes of like what guys are like and that sort of thing. So that's always cool.
I think he's excellent too at just giving you a nice, succinct soundbite. Where a lot of these guys, they say the same thing like 6 different ways, but he says
Like
it
the high
once.
school essay?
It's direct. He's good at that, and you appreciate it. Just when you're trying to gather quotes, like perfect. Just a nice 2 sentences. Jonathan, bang. It's exactly what I needed. Whereas some of the other guys, you got to go through, and it's and the same thing and all that stuff.
So if the players were to sit down and give an award to the good guy media person,
I don't think there's really any competition.
So this is one of those votes that is unfair to any other candidate.
You'd have to treat it like we used to do with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Like Patriots MVP.
Other than Mike Reese.
Parentheses.
Other than Mike
non-Tom Brady edition.
Yeah.
It would have to be excluding Mike Reese.
Well, I don't know. Mike Reese has gotten pretty tough lately.
But he is the greatest guy that I've ever met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that all the players
he has dinner at their houses.
think the same thing.
He's just always
nice.
No?
Mike's always so appreciative.
You know
of the
Fred
guys
made Mike Reese. You know that, right?
I do.
Like those.
I made it. Mike Reese made Mike Reese.
Another kingmaker.
Those
Fred
Monday
Kirsch.
afternoons that we get those guys virtually, and there are not many people on there, and he is always on there, thanking them for their time, respectfully asking questions, and really asking, I think, a lot of times the questions that need to be asked. And
but in a respectful way.
Totally respectful way.
So other than Mike,
Yeah.
Karen Garigian?
Karen would be up there.
Yeah.
Karen is
Absolutely.
great.
I think this is for the players.
Yeah.
Like, from the players' perspective.
From the players' perspective.
I think Phil would be up there too.
Oh yeah.
I think everybody likes Phil and Tom.
Yeah.
But probably Phil over Tom. No offense, Tom.
Yeah.
Don't headbutt
Well,
me.
Phil's around more a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think with Mike too, like just watching him like work the locker room, like you just like pick up a lot of like how to approach players and like you don't want to just come in guns blazing and like have like a million like negative questions right off the bat, and like he does a really good job of like acting like a human being to these guys and not just like peppering them with questions on football and stuff like that right off the bat.
Mike would be a great course to young reporters as to how to not shy away from difficult subjects, but to do it in a respectful manner.
Yeah, and
like he has a really good feel.
And no kidding aside, or all kidding aside, I should say, when Bill was here, Mike got shot down a lot.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like Bill, like to the point where we were like, why is Bill disrespecting Mike the way he is?
Yeah.
You know, because Mike was the only thing he was to Bill was respectful, and yet Bill would shoot Mike down for some of the questions he asked.
Very often.
Yep.
So much so that it would get guys like Felker upset.
Yeah.
Like, why are we treating Mike Reese?
I would actually love Bill versus Mike Reese. Like, not that it was versus necessarily, but that whole like back and forth, because Mike is so nice. It's like, how are you mean to that guy, right? And then it would go against like every fiber in Bill's being, whereas like that's actually
almost
a good
like
question.
It hurts so much more when it comes from you, Mike.
Yeah.
I hope other teams have their Mike Reeses. Like, I wonder that with do other teams have someone who is just
one of a kind,
kind of the level, you know, like I mean, there are certainly guys who ask tough questions and come at it kind of hard. There are other people that ask really soft, non-topical questions that are kind of out of left field, but I feel like he always makes sure that you stay on course and keep the main thing the main thing. I think that's what Mike is really good at.
In Arizona, they named the whole press box after one of their former media members. Schoenfeld, is that what his name was?
It was.
Did you notice that when you were there for 2 of your Super Bowls, Paul?
Yeah, it's all over the wall.
But I can't think of the guy's name now.
Begins with a SCH.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not thinking of the same guy.
I don't know if you know,
I thought
but
it was someone who passed away.
This was the spot that Malcolm Butler picked off Russell Wilson. I almost posted that picture, but 10 other people beat me to it. So.
Yeah. So what else? Anything else coming out of practice that we should know about?
No.
Is there a chance that? So they were in shells today, right?
Yeah.
Any chance that there's a way to get that field house down to like 5 degrees and they practice in there?
Well, if they stood like underneath, you know how like the helipad, right?
Yeah.
And there's like the overhang like area that it's like almost like a modular that hangs over there.
Yeah.
Underneath there is like really cold because you're in the shade and it's like a wind tunnel under there. So they could just like maybe do a walkthrough under there or something, and that probably drops it by like 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Like once we got out in the sun, it actually wasn't all that bad today. It was pretty nice out for this time of year.
No, it's 48 degrees.
Yeah,
it's what I would call mild.
I would say it was 38 degrees underneath that modular.
But still, that's warm compared to what they're going to face in Buffalo. Do you feel that there's been too much talk of the cold today?
Yes, I guess, because it's like we're not in Miami here. Like, you know, like the other day we were out at practice and it was freezing. Like it was, I think it was Thursday or Friday of last week, and it was. Kendrick Bourne said it was the coldest practice he's ever been a part of.
Yeah, I agree with Mike and Evan on this. If it's just cold, and again, we're not talking about like Tennessee 03 divisional playoff cold where it's like -4 Fahrenheit. You know, not. But if it's just cold, well, that's what we're in New England. It's cold. It's cold here and it's cold there, but Buffalo usually brings.
But if it's windy,
Buffalo usually brings other stuff to the equation, which makes it
lake effect.
A bad weather game. You know, wind or snow or something,
and
it comes out of nowhere.
You get hit with one of those toys that they throw out. Yeah. It's cold. It's really hard.
Marital aid, if you will.
You know,
is that really aiding your marriage, or is that setting an unfair precedent?
Do you remember the game that we were there in 2000, Freddie?
It's a breakup device. What's that, Paul?
I'm sorry, Everett and I just wanted to talk football.
What's that?
The game that we were there, Bill's first year in 2000, when we ended up, Bill was like, we're going. And some of the players got off the plane, got in trouble. But do you remember that wasn't necessarily supposed to be like this terrible game. And all of a sudden, it's like in the middle of the game, you could hardly see the field from the press box.
Yeah.
There's like snow blowing all over the place.
Yep, lake effect.
Somehow we got out of there that night.
Yeah.
So wait, you said guys got off the plane, they didn't want to fly in?
Ty Law, Troy Brown, and someone else.
Yeah.
Terry Glenn.
That was the Canadian border.
Yeah.
thing.
Ty Law got arrested.
Yeah.
Because his cousin's bag.
He had his cousin's gym bag.
But was that they got off because they didn't want to fly in the
Yeah.
weather?
They were
no,
afraid.
they literally asked, can we
I don't feel comfortable.
Come home tomorrow or drive home because they were scared. So it was Terry Glenn, Ty Law,
and Troy Brown.
He's like big football players. I'm not flying.
I'm just imagining how long.
Parcells was a notoriously bad flyer, to the point where it made him feel better to sit up with the pilot in the cockpit, which you can't do it after 9/11.
Yeah.
They
Control
won't
freak.
allow that anymore. But he used to sit up with the pilot.
Oh.
How long after those guys got off the plane were they like, so you want to just get a car and drive to New England? And they're like, hold up.
No, they had a
Montreal
night.
to Canada.
Yeah, they had a night on St. Catherine Street.
Blame Canada.
Yeah, blame Canada.
Yeah.
That
So that's
was a
your
good win too. That was a good win that day.
That's your practice report.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 13-10 overtime if I'm not mistaken.
A lot of talk at practice today. A lot of chatter.
Chatter? Scuttlebutt?
State of the team.
Isn't that ironic?
from the media.
There was
how
a
we're
lot
gonna
of
fix things.
There was a lot of media chatter on the one time that Fred didn't ask what the media chatter
Yeah,
was.
that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
A lot of how are we going to fix this together?
Who's got the answers?
Well, is it the media's job to fix it,
It's
or
just
report on
it's just amazing to me. Like, how are we going to fix this?
Yeah, how are we going to fix
we
it?
can't cover
not
a
your
team
job.
like this. This is not what God put us on this earth to do.
It's not our job, but we do it anyway.
We're
We take
supposed
on
to-
that
we
responsibility.
only cover dynasties.
What did you think of what Curran? Did you happen to listen to Curran last night? He was talking about.
I heard.
He
I
said
saw the
two
highlights.
things of note that everyone's harping on today.
Yeah.
One, that Vrabel would be interested in coaching here, but the second, that the Patriots need a football czar, someone that oversees everything, the coach, the GM, or the Elliott's job, whatever title that is, but a football president / czar that looks over all of that. What do you think of that?
So I actually we kicked around that idea on Catch 22 after they parted ways with Bill because of how much brain power you lose with Bill walking out the building. It's not just coaching, it's also how to run an organization and personnel and all that kind of stuff. So we thought of that too, and I know it hasn't worked out beautifully, but like Cam Neely with the Bruins, right? Like an ex-player of the Patriots who's beloved and who had a great career here and has, sort of that kind of quality. It's not necessarily watching like, 6th round picks and stuff like that on film, but is making sure that the people that are supposed to be watching the 6th round picks are doing it and doing it correctly. So the name that we actually had thrown out at the time, because we weren't sure if like maybe the whole thing with the Titans was that he wanted to go upstairs and didn't want to coach anymore, was Vrabel. Ironically, I don't know if we had any other names, but
Curran throughout Pioli.
Yeah. I mean, like that's more like obviously personnel side, but like I definitely could see that being advantageous to take some of that pressure off of Gerard and let him just kind of.
To me, it's to find a good one. To me, would be harder than finding a good head coach or personnel guy because it's a rare blend of you need to know football inside and out. You need to know all the machinations of running a football team. But I think in today's day and age, you also need to know business.
Yeah.
So in how that all, comes together and what is the balance between, doing what a sponsor wants to do as opposed to, what's best for the team and how do those two things blend. To have somebody that has a feeling for all of that, I think, is tough to find somebody that would be good at that.
Yeah, and I know I brought up Cam Neely because it's close to home, and I know that the Bruins have had varying levels of success depending on who you talk to, right? But like at the same time, like they've been a pretty solid organization that goes to the playoffs pretty much every single year. And it's, that top down sort of thing of it's Neely to Sweeney to the coach, like, that thing kind of appealed to me at the time, just because of how much they lost with Bill from just building a program, you know.
Did you throw your name in the mix, or?
No, like I didn't consider it, but I'd probably send my resume in if they wanted me to.
All right, couple more phone calls to wrap up the show. Dan's in Connecticut. What's up, Dan? Dan.
Don.
What's going on over there, Dan? Oh, he's having trouble.
Dan.
Hi, Dan.
It's Dan, but anyways.
It's Dan.
Quick question for you guys.
Don.
Or I guess a counter argument from yesterday. I don't know if you've covered it since, but you guys pretty much came to the consensus that for the upcoming draft, we should just draft the best player available, just because we have so many holes on our roster. My kind of counter argument with that is I still think that offensive line is our biggest issue. And I also think it's a unique issue because it seems like one of the only positions you can only really improve through the draft. Because in my opinion, I'm not an expert or anything, but not many, truly starting caliber offensive tackles especially hit free agency, nor are they really traded. And I think we have enough, cap space at this point to sign like a receiver or to sign, corner linebacker, something like that. And I also think that our history with wide receivers in the draft has been pretty poor. So I just wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on that. And then one question I had for you guys, because I know that Mayo's pretty much safe, and Van Pelt, their jobs are safe until next year. But what do you think the chances are that Covington gets fired? Because it's pretty obvious our defense has looked awful, even though we have pieces like Gonzalez, White. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on both those two things, and I'll get off now and let you guys discuss it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with his premise. I think both coordinators, the drum beats are pretty loud for both of them. I think both or one or I could go. So
I agree with that as far as the noise.
There's no way if I'm the Crafts that I can look at what happened this year and say, oh, everything's fine, everybody comes back. There's got to be changes. And we talked about it, Evan, you weren't here, but unfortunately we don't have the information needed to make those decisions in the offseason. The Crafts, I assume, do. And so for whatever is the main reasons for the demise of the defense, for whatever is the main reason for what some people think is the lack of creativity in the game calling, there are answers. And changes have to be made to address those things. I don't agree with his premise that Van Pelt is safe. I think he's done a good job overall, but again, I don't have the information that people downstairs have.
I mean, AVP to me is the only one who you have some kind of tangible proof of some progress and some positive development. It's been inconsistent and it's been really up and down, especially the last month or two, but he's the only one you feel like you have any kind of proof positive that you saw Drake May get better. I mean, I've seen visible improvement from him. It hasn't put them over the top and translated to wins, but
and we think that that's because of Van Pelt, but those in the know might be saying, no, he's that good that he's good.
One other thought I had is I just was brought back to when Paul, you went through and did the quarterback thing where you studied like where quarterbacks are taken, and kind of I think the result was you need to take them in this certain range. I'd be curious to do that study with tackles too, as of late. Like,
He's done it, right?
Did you do the tackles? I mean, are there gems? I mean, is it unreasonable to think like, look, if
I
you don't get one in the first 15 picks,
see, now that I haven't done. I did the whole. I compared the hit miss rate with quarterbacks to tackles because there's a conventional wisdom out there that the quarterback is a bigger risk than any other position, and I sort of showed that it's really not. There are a lot of busts at a lot of different positions that go very high in the draft.
I know, but when you bust at those other positions, it doesn't set you back like as if you bust at quarterback.
See, I disagree.
Okay.
I think what happens is the bust at tackle isn't considered. Isaiah Wynn isn't considered a bust like a quarterback bust is considered.
Right.
Because everybody watches the quarterback play and says, he's not completing passes. And they're not necessarily doing that for the tackle. Because the tackle played, he started every game. He's not good. Some call him, the floor is, a Pro Bowl guard.
Right. Well, if they've been handled correctly.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that's just like sort of an example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that Wynn was an end of the first round guy. But like, I don't think people look at Kenny Pickett and Isaiah Wynn similarly. Kenny Pickett is a much bigger bust in the eyes of most than Isaiah Wynn, whereas they're both last half of the first round guys who didn't really pan out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I just think to the point about the draft, like everybody is in agreement that offensive line is their biggest need, but you can't create Joe Thomas. Like it just if you're picking third overall and let's say maybe they grade out Calvin Banks or Will Campbell and it proves to grade out worthy of the third overall pick. But if he grades out as your 16th best player on your board and you're taking him third overall, like that's how bad teams stay bad, right? And like that's what happened. I keep throwing him under the bus, but that's what happened with Cole Strange, They needed a guard. Bill felt like they needed a guard, and they overdrafted a guard, and it set them back. It set them back bigly. And like if
they could have had him later and gotten a better first round pick.
So yeah, no one's in disagreement that tackle is their biggest need.
Yeah,
by far. But if there isn't a tackle worthy of the pick, then you're out of luck.
All right, we'll do one more call. We're a little late, but we'll get Anthony in because he tried earlier. And what's up, Anthony?
Hey, how's it going? First and foremost, I'm a big fan of the show. Thank you guys so much for what you do every week. It's been
Thank
pretty
you.
Great to
Thanks
hear
for
you guys
listening.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Hey, anytime. So I kind of wanted to touch on, the guy that called regarding Elliott Wolf saying he's got to go. I got to disagree. I mean, I feel like we got to give everybody the same grace across the board and be consistent with that. I feel like when it comes to Mayo, I mean, they're all first-year guys. It's really kind of unrealistic expectation to inherit this type of roster with all these glaring holes and expect any type of situation where we were going to do anything good this year. I feel like Elliott Wolf did a lot of the obvious choices. Like, we retained a lot of guys that we needed to. You look at Hunter Henry, he's having a good year. You look at Austin Hooper, he's doing pretty good. I mean, he hit a lot of the checkpoints, like the obvious ones. I know not everything really panned out. I know the draft is kind of a little wonky, for lack of a better term, with like Caden Wallace going down, in and out, and Layden Robinson. But I mean, I don't know. Don't you guys think that the expectation, we should temper our expectations and let's see what they do in year two?
No, I tend to agree with you. The only question I had on Wolf, Anthony, was how much say did he have prior to this? Because we're all in agreement that the roster isn't good. Well, who created that roster? And that's the only thing.
My thing isn't about expectations. I expected to have a record
kind
of similar to what they have.
Yeah.
They didn't get players. They didn't bring in players to help the team. Pretty much across the board. Free agents, draft, retaining free agents. Like, there's more misses than hits. Like, I don't, whatever that translated to in the record, I think Anthony's right.
Yeah.
We all expected it to be a tough record, but I think we all thought, okay, we're 4-13. Whatever the record ends up being, can we show some improvement? And they really haven't.
And now they have $132 million in cap space and probably another
top
5 pick.
Top 3 pick, so Elliott Wolf did his job. All right. What do we got? We got Playbook coming up. All right, Playbook coming up with John
Step
Rook.
inside.
Yep. We have our company party tonight, so we'll have some stories tomorrow to talk about on the show at noon.
Can't wait to hear those.
We'll see you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast. Patriots.